cage and they just put,
That
it looks like some sci-fi thing.
Yeah.
Just,
All right, we're good to go. We're live.
yeah.
I saw that on the satellite
Yeah.
view, and I
We
was
got-
like,
who
what in
walked
the
that
world
back?
is that?
Who
What
comes?
is it?
That's just a contraption of
Okay.
plastic that they put
Okay.
together.
Is it for,
Structure.
Oh,
Okay.
plastic, you cannot see it on the ground.
yeah,
Okay.
you can't go find it, Luke.
You cannot find it on the ground.
First of all, thank you all for coming. Here we are on December the 29th, 2017. This will be our last seminar for this year, Lake Fork Trophy Lures Free Fishing Seminar. I forget how many we've had. We'll go back and count them up, but it's exceeded our expectations. It's because of those of you who come locally, and if those of you come and view us online, both live and after the fact, we're getting really, really good viewership. And so I hope that's a testimony to what we're trying to do. We're trying to teach and help you catch more fish primarily, and we can only do that if you give us feedback and ask questions both while you're here and online and even after the fact. So the first thing I want to say is, given that it's the 29th of December, I'm very pleased with the turnout. We got a couple of new friends from Austin who came in today in the store, and they went fishing and almost froze. Now they're coming back for the seminar tonight. And we got Curtis here, who's now helping us to make lures in the back as we staff up for the beginning of the new season. And then we got a lot of the regulars like Clem, and I got two of my best pro staffers from out of state who've come down, Taco and Nathan are here. So we've been trying to get them here for a number of weeks, and finally they're here. So thank you all, and I especially thank so many online, and either online or in person. Ask questions anytime you want. We got two of our regulars, Billy and Michael, tonight are gonna talk to you about a number of things. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a tease about the next two times. It'll be January the 12th and January 26th. I've got guest speakers coming both times already lined up. I'm not gonna give them up tonight, but you'll be very pleased, I think, at who we've got coming. Some new people. They're coming to complement those we have locally. So we'll keep this going, try to make it even bigger and better in 2018. So thank you all for being here. And Michael, with that, I'm going to have you go at it.
Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate it. All the viewers, definitely appreciate you guys. Can't believe that we have a full room already. I didn't expect it tonight. So thank you for being here. Cold, huh?
It's chilly out there.
So
a lot
it's
of wind.
It's here. Okay, it's cold. So those of you that have been following, I know I've been doing a lot of stuff on sonars. Tonight I'm not going to talk really about sonars. There's a little brief thing in my fishing lesson that I'll talk about the sonar, but in essence I'm off the sonars, seminars, because I've given most of everything I can, okay? Anything else is advanced or indifferent in what I've taught you. So I've just kind of kept you beginners with that. But anyways, let's move on to fishing. It has gotten cold. I mean, the entire country is nailed with cold, okay? Being that these are F1s, anybody know what that means? That when I'm talking about the bass on Lake Fork, I'm talking about it being F1s. Anybody know what that means? Not like an airplane, but it's a Florida strain. Okay, these fish were brought over from Florida many years ago, but the strain comes from Florida. Florida doesn't get cold. That's why these fish don't like the cold, okay? So a little lesson about the fishing fork is they don't like the cold, so any warm trend at all is good. That's why you will find, the more you fish it, the bite will always switch when the south wind begins to blow. It'll be tough. South wind starts, boom, that's like a trigger on this light to expect to be getting bit. Why? Because usually south is coming out of the Gulf, it's just a little bit warmer. May not affect the water immediately, but you get a couple, 2-3 days of south blow and the fishing begins to reverse. So what has happened right now is we are blanketed. So in the past several weeks or months, in amongst the sonar lessons, I've talked about warm trend water. Does anybody anticipate any warm trend water today, tomorrow? The sun's not shining. So we're out with that. The shallow waters are probably really brutal to fish right now. What I'm going to do is kind of just prep you on what's going on in my mind on Fork right now, literally as of today. Water temperatures are dropping dramatically. And what I've noticed on Fork is when you get down below 49 degrees, there's only a couple places to fish. Billy's talked a lot about them in the creeks, in the wood of the actual roots of the trees. That's one way. Another way, which I love, is deep water. Anybody have any idea how deep I'm talking about? You should. I talked about it before. 30 to what? 30 to 50 feet, absolutely. I'm more concentrating on 30, and I may look shallower. I'm not saying I'm not looking at the 18, 20 and all that. But on a day like today, I'm going to be looking in that 30 to 55 foot of water. The two biggest fish caught on this lake, 18.3 and 18.6, were both caught out of 43 feet of water in February. There's a lot more. That means a lot more to me. That's just like where you shot a big, huge buck. You're probably going to see another one. There's a reason for that. So, my lesson tonight is going to be about vertical fishing and fishing down that deep. Okay. It's for me. As soon as I get anything deeper than about 30 feet. Back home on the West Coast, I fished all the way down to 85 or deeper. Deeper meant you killed the fish bringing them up, so we didn't like to do that as much. But for example, I'd have a hump at 55 feet, and I would cast a 1-ton jig to that hump. We don't have that type of structure once we get to the 45, 50 foot here on Fork. There's just not a lot. There's a few main link points that come out long enough. Little Caney Point, and some of those big Caney Points that come out, they hit about 45, 47 at the very end. But that's just one location. So you got a lot of water down there that has some features, but a lot of nothing. Okay, and that's the challenge. Those fish free roam, they move around out there, and the way that I go about it is definitely with the sonar. Okay, it's a vertical presentation. It's slow. It's cold. It's painful this time of year to get out there and fish, no matter whether you're in the back of the creek trying to fish in the tree stumps and the roots, or whether you're out deep, out in the mid-open water. Now, day like today and the high winds, I probably would stick to the backs of the creeks just because it's that much more brutal. But, so down south on Lake Fork, there's a lot of water in the 40, 45, 50 foot range. A lot more than people think. Okay. You have what they call the dinner table down there. It's huge, huge flat with tons of stuff on the edges of it. I suggest if you want to try and do this, that's where you start. It's nasty. You'll lose a lot of stuff. But so the first thing is yes, this isn't a sonar lesson tonight, but you can't do what I'm going to tell you how to do tonight without a good sonar. It has to be set right. And to see my little drop shot weight and my little drop shot worm on the sonar at all times, it's very important that I'm positioned right, that the boat's not moving too fast, where I put that rod tip is dropping in a specific spot so that transducer will pick that up. And I do want sensitivity a little hotter. I don't care about garble and things like that in at that time. I want to see my line. I want to see the two blips because I'm Nintendo fishing. I'm fishing off of that sonar. Okay, light line, usually 7 to 10 pound test. There's a reason for that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But if I can't see it on the sonar, there's no point in doing this. Okay, so what happens is I end up with a sonar image that has my fishing line. I watch it, I open the bail, and I watch that drop shot plunge down to the depth that I want it, and I kill it. Okay, now here's the tricky part. You are going to mill around out there in that open water, and it's painstakingly slow going. You may go for an hour or 2 hours of not seeing anything. The objective is once you see the fish on the sonar, okay, now you have additional blips on the sonar, you can begin to work those fish, and you can immediately see their reaction, whether they just disappear off the sonar or whether they actually come to the bait. And you'll see your little worm blip on the sonar, and you'll see the fish approach it. It's really cool. If you have never seen it happen, it blows your mind at first. If you've seen it happen, you can concur that, wow, you watch the guy going, hey, look at my worm, I'm going to go up and down with the worm. You see the worm go up and down on the sonar, here comes the fish, and the guide says, okay, he's on it, bonk, and catches it. Saw it just a second before it happened. It's really, really unique, okay? So, that's about the gist. I'm going to get into that. Sonar's got to be clear. You do not want to be removing things and have all that background out there. You're going to drop your deal and go, well, there's my deal, and it got to 10 feet, 15 feet, to where'd it go? I don't see my bait any longer. So remember, there is no one setting on sonar. That's why. We're always tweaking up and down. Now, I talked about light line, okay? The reason that I want the light line, anybody have any idea?
So you can get it down.
I'm fishing for some big fish down there. Tends to be a lot of schoolers, so I go through a lot of 2 and 3 pounders, but I said the big girls are there. They will show up and will come and go. Why would I only want 7 or 10 pound test if I'm fishing for a big fish like that? Shouldn't I have heavier line? Anyone?
Not the drag etc.
Should I have heavier line? Anybody online? Say it, should I have heavier line? Alright, the deal is 2 things.
Get more action out of your bait.
That's right, I get totally more action out of this bait. Out of any bait, I don't care whatever drop shot worm you're using, if you lighten the line, the life-like action of the worm increases. Look at it in your swimming pool. Don't believe me, try it firsthand. Get a 12, a 10, a 8, a 6, and it'll change every time. The worm will be more and more lifelike and more free-like in body movement in the water itself. Okay? So I want this worm to be as lifelike on its own as possible. By the way, this is a LFT needleworm. It's a 9-inch worm, and it's in one of my best suggestive winter cold water colors, which is sour grape. Okay? Your red bug works well, watermelon red if the sun's shining. But that sour grape is an awesome color for cold water. So I want that light line on that drop shot. I'm going to actually go a little more leader. I've talked before about drop shotting, having my leader be the length of the worm, or I want the tail of the worm to touch the weight. Okay, that's in most drop shotting conditions. In this offshore deal that I'm doing, vertical, I actually set myself up about 2 to 3 feet. The reason is I'm going to play with those fish a lot. And I want separation from the weight and the worm on the sonar screen. If I put them too close, then I just get a big blob and I can't separate the weight and the worm. So I'm about 3 foot leader. On my sonar now I can register the weight, the worm, leaves me clarity to see any fish coming. Okay? That light line allows this worm to free float straight out and without ever shaking or doing anything. It's called dead sticking. I dead stick the rod. My job now becomes running that trolling motor, just working everywhere I go. And it's very slow going. But I promise you, once you get into it, you start to work the fish. It's a really great way to catch them right now, this time of year when there's no wind, as deep as 52 to 54 feet of water. Kevin Sharp is a witness that I've caught fish on board in 54 feet of water, just like I'm telling you now. So needleworms works the best for me, and I'll tell you why. Trick worms are really good, but the buoyancy in that and the action in that, when I'm dead sticking it, is phenomenal. It's almost like a ribbon in the water. It's really lifelike. As you get down in the deeper depths, you have a little bit of water compression, you have cold water down there, so that can stiffen up things too. I really like the
Mike, do you find that the thicker the plastic is, the worse the action is in cold water?
Absolutely.
That thin tapering tail.
Absolutely. Thicker plastic, and that's something there, that's just a tip. In your fishing, if you go to plastics in the winter, this is a tip. Throw the bait after you fish with the bait for a few minutes, check your plastic. If your plastic is really buggered up and things aren't looking like it's supposed to anymore, I've even seen them change color a little bit, tone. Refresh it, get it out, do something, warm it back up. There are some plastics that fish well in cold water and a lot that don't. So, same presentation, I'm still vertical. Everything I'm going to do is vertical. All this day of fishing will be, the only reason I cast is to get some buggers out of my reel. I've just started doing this with this trick worm, or needleworm really what it is. On a shaky head, I can achieve the same thing down at that depth. It's 1 blob instead of 2. I don't have a weight and a worm, I just have 1.
Kind of one question when you get to stuff.
Yep. But I found this is kind of experimental, so it's a recommendation. It's just a different presentation along with your drop shot, okay? And the other, in that vertical presentation, this is the best way to learn, by the way. You want to learn how to drop and see, that bait jigging up and down on your sonar. Get you a spoon. Okay? Get you a little jigging spoon. These are Ronnie Parker's special spoons. They're zinc spoons. But you get you a spoon, get out there deep and learn. You'll see this, the graph will pick this up real well. And you'll get familiar with where to hold that rod so that you see this on the sonar at all times. Okay, there's a sonar or a question online.
Yes, sir. Does the thermocline set up in the winter, or does that only happen in the summer? I've heard the fish won't go below it.
It depends on where you are in the U.S. If you're specifically here at Fork, it can set up in the winter, absolutely, and it is. We have this much cold weather like this, I guarantee you that there's some kind of thermocline either completely built out there right now or building. It's beginning to have, we're cold enough. That's Mother Nature's survival. If it didn't happen, you would have fish kills more often. So yes, if I expect to see some kind of thermocline this winter, did not last winter. As far as going below it, in the wintertime, usually not. It really just depends on two factors. Number one is there oxygen down there? If there's oxygen there, they can and may go there. And is it warmer or cooler? There are times you can have a long drawn out fall like we have and have that warm water in the basin. If that thermocline sets up and holds some warmer water below it, and that warmer water, you didn't have a hard fall turnover, you still have oxygen down there. A hard fall turnover will remove all that oxygen, and no, you're going to get a thermocline built and it'll be above it. But when we have a kind of a real light, subjectively, but answering the question, most of the time in the winter they will not go below it. In the summer they do. Another thing is the thermocline is a place to feed. That's where shad find their food, right in the thermocline. So your deep shad feed in the thermocline. Thermocline is always a good thing. Yeah. Any other online questions?
See you on that, buddy.
All right. Any questions in the room so far?
I'm sorry, I missed one. What weight you typically use on that 30-foot drop shot rig?
Okay, when I'm drop shotting really deep on fork, realistically in most places. I've been in Lake Mead, drop shot at 80, 85 feet. I've been in Lake Shasta on the Oregon border, drop shot 127 feet. Takes 45 minutes to let the fish come up on their own. You cannot pull that fish up or you kill it. So you get one fish, 45 minutes, comes up in intervals. Generally, anytime deeper than 30 feet, and I go to about a ½ ounce. Most of my drop shotting, I use a 1/4 and a 3/8. And sometimes I'll even go a little lighter if I'm free suspending it. If I'm letting it pendulum swing through schooling fish, I'll go a little bit lighter, swing it slower. But in this case, because I'm vertical, I want the bait to the bottom. And when I find fish, I'm going to work the rod at the level that I see the fish on the sonar. So ½ ounce is a rule of thumb when you're dropping like that. If you're getting deep, same thing with your jigs, spoons, shaky heads. Increase the weight. The decreasing the line will help it go down a little bit faster, but you'll get frustrated. Do not try this with a bait caster, okay? The reason is you'll actually just pull your hair out. You cannot make that spool, free spool fast enough to make you satisfied or to do what I said. A lot of times I'm chasing the fish. So maybe here's a scenario. Now maybe I've been, call it scrolling along for 20 minutes and I finally see some bottom locking fish. I'll open that bail and plummet that bait into them. Boom, it plummels them and they come off the bottom. You see the arches all of a sudden. It went from color on the bottom to boom, arches. Okay, and then we'll close the bail and burn it up. And I'll reel 3-4 cranks. 3 cranks is about 15 feet or so, 12, 15 feet of line, and I can see, does anybody follow it? So I've got a screen with just my drop shot weight and my worm. I'm tooling along, I see some fish sign on the bottom. I open the bail and drop it 4 more feet into them. They blast off the bottom and turn into arches. Everybody, hope you're with me. At that point I close my bail and I reel that bait coming through those fish that I just stirred up. Alright? If they follow it up, it's over. It's game on. So I'm going to let them follow it up. I'm going to open the bail, let it go back down because they're going to chase it back down. It's just like playing with a dog or a cat. I want them feisty. And I want as many of them as feisty as possible. So I usually will make them chase it back down. I burn it back up again. Stop a dead stick. They will crush it. They're all over it in cold, 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 cold water. But the time it took me to get to that is that's where you earn it. It's cold. You can't move on more than about 1 with your trolling motor. 1 or 2, depending on wind and stuff. It's just slow going. I can tell you this, after you've done it a lot out there, you'll kind of have certain areas that you like better than others. You'll eliminate a lot of the junk water. And there'll be days where you just don't see it. But when you come across those groups of fish, it's pretty unique, and they're untapped on. Untapped on. I have caught so many deep fish out of Fork that they're in a hook mark in them. They've never been caught by another fisherman. And they're always, the ones that are like that are deep, deep, deep. So sink some brush piles in 50 feet of water. Somebody can try that and see what happens. So I'm going to just throw another couple of cool things in the cold. My bait of choice this week is obviously sand-tone jig. I have found black and blue sand-tone jig. And I've found the LFT Hybrid Freak. If you're going to fish any of those roots, you're going to fish any of those tree stump corners on channel swings and stuff like that. That little Hyper Freak right there, the thumping, you use that as a trailer. Get that in them roots and thump that around. And that's my favorite bait choice of the week right there. Okay.
Mike, you pin on your electronics to find that thermocline?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the only place you're going to see a thermocline is on your sonar. And again, it's why in my lessons to y'all, I never wanted to confuse anybody. I hope I didn't. I didn't want to mislead anybody. The first most important thing is, as long as your interpretation's correct, it doesn't matter how you set it up. If you got it all backwards, as long as what you think it is down there is correct, good for you. Game on. I got a friend of mine who doesn't have any settings wrong, but he's decided to dive down and look in Arizona. It's clear water. So he kind of learned what is, and I look at his sonar and go, that is terrible setting. And what is that? He goes, that's a tree. I go, it looks, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but he knows it's a tree. For him, it's a tree. So however you set it, realistically, as long as you're right, that's up to you. There are certain specific ways. Honestly, I'm getting sidetracked here.
What if you drop a drop shot down 45 feet of water? I'm new to the electronics. We have our transducer on the trolling motor.
Yes.
And so I'm really learning, what to look for and what is what, and what does it look like on your if you're looking at your graph. What's
Okay.
So
part of it is you may be trying to do it and you're not seeing your bait.
yeah.
And that could be because of settings.
Yeah.
If your settings are, like I talked about before, removing things, okay? I didn't want to talk about this, but I have to. I knew this was going to come up. If you have garble, okay? You have garble in your
Sorry to
sonar.
take you there.
It's okay.
I don't think I've seen our bait on the.
Right. We have HD units today, just like HD television, right? Okay, it should be crystal clear, just like your TV, okay? But if your TV had features where it had a picture of 7 buildings, and they were garbled, and you had to go into the TV, tweak the TV to get HD clarity, but in that tweaking, you lost 2 of those buildings in the background. There were 7 buildings, non-clear, garbly. You tweaked your HD television to bring back that super clarity, and now you only see 5 buildings. That's the point. So if it's not set right, you won't see that drop shot weight. It's not hot enough. It has to be hot. Sometimes mine's so hot on that my drop shot weight will leave a huge, it looks like the drop shot weight exploded on the sonar.
Do you just see a little blip dropping down?
Yes,
Just
you
go
should
down?
have it where you see your whole line.
Because it drops and usually makes a trail going down.
You'll leave a history trail all the way down.
With the current kind of pulling it.
And well, it's your sonar scroll. So the sonar scroll, it saw it immediately. As it's scrolling, that's the past tense. So that line should be at an angle. Your bait's going to fall at an angle on that sonar because that's all past tense. Okay?
Right.
It's really unique. Once you get really good at it, you can spell your name. I can spell Mike. I can have it M and an I, and not quite a K, but you can literally, it's fun. It becomes like Nintendo fishing. So it's one of my favorite ways. It really is. Coming from the West Coast, we do it a lot. Here's the deal. If you really want to know the drill on it, Brent Ayler just did a YouTube. Go check it out. There's no point even listening to me because Brent Ayler nails it to the T, and there's nobody any better. Any questions?
Yep. Somebody's asking about fishing bridges in the wintertime. I'm assuming with the drop shot.
I'm glad that came up. Yes, fish the bridges a lot. There's a lot of crappie on the bridges. There's a lot of big bass on the bridges. There's another little secret I did want to kind of let out. Sour grape, awesome color. Everybody knows this ring fry right here, LFT ring fry. That color, wacky style on the bridges. Hold on. That's all I gotta say. You get bit that way, hang on, might be SureLunker. So right now, some of them big SureLunker fish are on them bridge pylons and the roads that are adjacent to it. And they're with the crappie.
Does anybody know how the state record was caught?
Crappie fishing,
January crappie fishing.
January crappie fishing,
Oklahoma's is the
in
same.
43 feet of water.
With the minnow.
Yeah, that's right.
So again, you know, if there are any questions about what I talked about, there's a lot of do nothing in this job when you're vertical.
Now, right now, the water is dropping, temperature of the water is dropping fast. You're gonna have big shad die off, right?
We could.
With what's going on next week?
What's
Yes.
coming up next week?
More than likely, we will. Which is also a good jerk begins to be developed. Jerkbait bite, dying fluke. Fluke bite really comes around because you got a lot of dying shad. This year it'll be in the treetops, right in the centers of those creeks. You know, you go down to Cheney Creek and fish them trees going right down the center with jerkbaits. You go into the back of Wolf, any one of them creeks, go right down the middle. It's got all them trees sticking up. Follow the creek and throw jerkbaits and flukes on every tree. And there'll be a lot of fish that stay on those trees and they come up for sun and drop when they don't like it. But they're looking for all that. That's just what they're looking for, dying, dead shad. So that's going to happen this year too. Yep. It's going to get tough for a little bit.
So magic shad would work pretty good too.
Yes. And then never forget, I'm going to close up, never, ever, ever, I won't let you, because I'll talk about it, and I'm going to show some pictures here real quick. What do you think, all right, all this talking deep in there, but what do you think Michael McFarland, anybody that's been following the past couple of seminars, what do you think Michael McFarland's going to do the very first day the sun comes out?
Go back to shallow water.
Where?
In the back of
Boat
the
ramp to the glide bait.
Boat ramp for the glide baits. Concrete, anything that warm trends, and I know that it warm trends. I use the sonar to prove to myself that it actually warm trended. So I see the sonar warm trend, and it's game on. It's game on. It's my favorite bite on that fork since I moved here. I love the drop shot and all that, but I did it so much. If I could do anything else, I would. But that bite will take me off the best drop shot bite, because there ain't nothing like throwing a glide bait in 2 inches of water and have an 8-pounder instantaneously go roar, and you're freezing cold. It's freezing cold. It's really cool.
How much of the temperature increase?
I've seen 10 degrees. Last year, in about, I'm not going to say the spot. I want you guys to do some of your own homework. And it took me 15 minutes to idle in, and in 600 yards, I watched it come up 10 degrees. And by the time I got to the concrete ramp that I was going to throw on, I ended up fishing that entire bay because the whole thing had warmed up 10 degrees. Yep. Skinny water. Super skinny water. Any other questions? Well, appreciate y'all watching. Thank you so much for following faithfully. Hey, get on, if you're not here in town, get on LFT's website. Check some of this stuff out. Everything I talked about tonight pretty much is you can get right here in the store or online. Everybody faithfully watching us, I can't thank you enough. Appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed Fork, even though it was pretty brutal welcoming.
All right. Good job, Michael.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
We're thinking about anchoring up today. The wind was blowing so hard. We're like, I've got a 100-foot rope with an anchor on it. Just anchor out there.
If you can just mark through the questions, I got that one restricted.
I got ready. 2 best tips. Fish from the couch or bring some chicken noodle soup.
Fish from the couch. Come on, man.
It's cold.
Well, it is cold and it's going to get colder. You know, there's something that's going to happen first part of next week that doesn't happen very often. We're going to have multiple days where the temperature never gets above freezing. We will most likely, Wednesday morning, you will most likely actually be able to find some of the backwater areas of Fork that have ice all the way across them.
Mm-hmm.
That's extremely rare.
I'm skinny enough to ice skate across them.
Yeah, Mike probably is skinny enough. I don't think it'll work for me. I was contemplating next week maybe tying on some punching rigs to punch ice. So, you know, just to see if it can be done. But anyway, it's extreme weather, guys. When you get it that cold, when the water drops that fast, hey, for me, there's just, you know, in the wintertime, one of the things that I do love winter fishing, because as tough as it can be, you may only go out and get a few bites all day long. A couple things that I love. One is your average size of fish is way bigger right now than it is any other time of year. The number of 6, 7+ pound fish that you catch, as far as the percentage of total bites you get, is way higher right now than it ever will be the rest of the year. And that's always the case every year. And what the reason that is we've talked about this a couple times, but I'll hit it one more time. Those fish are gestating eggs. They're pregnant. Those big fish, those females, those 7+ pounders, every one of them's pregnant. Who in here's had a pregnant wife or mom? Have you ever watched them eat? That's what every 7+ pound bass in the lake is going through. The rest of the fish, being cold-blooded animals, aren't eating very much at all. The male bass do not eat a lot in the wintertime because they're cold-blooded. Their metabolism slows down, right? So they don't have to feed very much at all to maintain their weight or even to put on weight. They can eat one big meal every few days and still gain weight because of how slow their metabolism gets. The females being pregnant, gestating eggs counteracts that. That's why you see a higher percentage of bites come from your bigger fish, because they have to eat more than the smaller fish. So that's one thing that I really love about the winter is the size of fish we catch. The other thing that I love is when it gets extremely cold, it gets extremely simple. There ain't but just a few things you can do to catch them. I mean, there's just a few ways to do it. It takes all the, well, man, should I go here? And, man, should I throw this? Maybe if we tried this color, maybe if we tried this bait or technique, all that goes away and you're down to a few techniques. You know, the one yesterday that was the best for us was what Mike actually said, the flipping jig, a 1/2 ounce flipping jig. We're fishing in the creek channel. The bottom of the creek channel was 23 foot. The top of it was 16 foot, had a good 7-foot drop in it. That's textbook Lake Fork winter fishing right there. Outside bend of a creek channel with that kind of drop, black and blue jig. There's been a lot of 10-pounders caught on that over the years. We didn't catch any 10-pounders yesterday, but we caught some really nice fish. We didn't get a lot of bites. We broke one off that who knows how big. We had some fish come unbuttoned, we missed on hook sets and stuff like that, so we missed some opportunities, but we did put several fish in the boat and several fish that were very nice size. So it was a good day, you know, when it's that cold. I think on the water the temperature never got above 35 yesterday, so it was really cold. So. Yeah, it hurt. It was painful. The hands are still sore from yesterday, okay? But one other technique that I want to talk to you guys about tonight, and it's something, as I was thinking about, you know, last night and this morning, thinking about what am I going to talk to these guys about. You know, like I said, we're limited in the wintertime to the ways we can fish. I knew Mike was doing drop shot tonight, and that's a good way to go about it in the wintertime for sure. It's not my personal favorite. I don't really like drop shotting that much, but it is something that is very effective in this situation. Jig fishing we've already kind of hit on a couple seminars ago. So what can I talk to them about? And I thought of something. I talk about the chatterbait and the lipless bait. We've done all these things, right? We've discussed all these things. So I thought of something, and I just about kicked myself in the teeth for not thinking of it yesterday. It's something that I learned when I was about his age from my dad. And what's funny is my dad actually called it Carolina rigging, but it's not. It's finesse version of Carolina rigging. A lot of people call it a mojo rig.
Chicken chip rig.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that on camera, but that's actually what it was called to me when I was a kid, was the Chicken S rig, because it's a Chicken S version of a Carolina rig. So, yeah, and that, when I was actually a kid, that's how I learned how to Carolina rig fish, was a split shot weight up in front of, you know, a couple feet in front of a worm hook and fishing like that. And that's something that I can tell you, yesterday we caught jig fish. We had a pretty good jig bite. And we actually at one point went 4 for 4 in this weather yesterday. I mean, 4 casts, 4 bass. And you wouldn't think that would happen, but the jig bite was good yesterday. We went in shallow water, got around that grass and tried to get those reaction bites off those traps and chatterbaits, and we caught 1 fish. And we grounded up there for a couple hours. It just wasn't happening. Those fish, that cold weather had punched them in the mouth. And I wish that I would have thought about the old finesse Carolina rig, mojo rig. You can call it the other if you want to. It's a little bit more fun. But whatever reason I didn't. So here's how that goes. In the wintertime, basically once I get to November, this is something that I've kind of forgotten about over the years. I'm glad we're talking about tonight because I need to do it more. In the wintertime, once we get, well not winter, but fall, once you get to basically November, from November to, let's say late April around here, May maybe, there's something that used to get fished a bunch. And it doesn't really get fished a lot. I mean, some, you know, old hands and locals will but not nearly as much as it used to. It's a lizard. Anybody still fish a lizard? So we got a few people that still fish a lizard.
Absolutely.
But we don't, you know, as a whole, as a fishing community, we don't fish a lizard near as much as we used to because there's so many options out there, different creature baits and da-da-da-da. You know, we got things today that we never would have dreamed of back when we were always fishing a lizard. But fishing a lizard has always been effective from like November through April. I mean, forever and ever. I mean, old hands on Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn Fork have always thrown a lizard. It's always been a staple. Well, it's something that we kind of get away from. Well, you know, we talk about innovation and new lures. And LFT, Lake Fork Travel Lures, did something quite a long time ago now. They took a lizard and put swim slots in it. They're patented swim slots that they came up with years ago. We all are familiar with the swim slots on the Magic Shad. Well, they've got a lizard that has swim slots. What these swim slots do on every bait that they're designed on is they allow for action at a slower speed. Well, what do we do on every bait that we fish in the wintertime? We fish it slow, right? You know, the bait, we think about the baits that work real good in the wintertime, staple winter baits, a jig. When that jig hits a tree or a root and stops, what happens? It's still moving, right? That skirt's moving, that trailer's wiggling a little bit. So you got movement without movement, right? When you fish a chatterbait in the wintertime, we can creep it. And that thing's barely moving forward, but boy, it's vibrating and moving. So it's got movement without much movement. Rattle trap, same way. You can make it vibrate at a slow speed. Big bladed spinner baits. All these things are creating the same thing. What this does, when you put swim slots in a lizard and you put it on a Finesse Carolina rig, you can now get in those drains and ditches that we talk about in these grass flats, because those fish are still there, right? Those fish that were in the grass flat 3 days ago didn't leave. They're just in a little bit deeper water, a little bit of a depression, 4 or 5 foot of water instead of 2 foot of water, right? So they're going to find that deeper water, get down in it, hunker down. Now they're going to be in a bad mood and not want to bite. And sometimes you can make them react with a lipless bait. But when you can't, like yesterday, what we should have done is tie on a Finesse Carolina rig, get an LFT lizard, right, with swim slots in it, and fish that thing painstakingly slow. Because you can literally have that bait sitting on the bottom and just, y'all probably can't even see my hand moving, but literally just that much movement with that hyper tail on there and those swim slots, that lizard will be just a slow undulating action without moving forward at all. So this is a technique that you can do when it's tough, when you can't get a bite. You go out there, maybe your jig fish ain't biting, or you've gone through your creek bends and you caught them and now you kind of stopped biting, you're running out of fish. Kind of where we ran into yesterday, and we couldn't make anything else happen. If we could have done this, we could have created the rest of the day, could have been much more productive if it would have worked. And I got, just my years of experience, and like I said, this is something I learned from when I was a kid, so I've been doing this for a long time. My years of experience tell me yesterday would have been the perfect time to do this. When nothing else will work, you pick up the old Finesse Carolina rig, you put your lizard on that cold water, you get in the drain right outside those grass edges and creep it. And that's something that, it's hit me like a light bulb when I was trying to think about what to talk about, so.
You ever throw that on Shaky Head?
That lizard? I haven't thrown that lizard on a Shaky Head. I haven't. Not that particular one. I haven't thrown any lizard on a Shaky Head, honestly, to be honest with you.
I just thought about it, just curious.
Colors, we talk about colors. I don't know if it's because the water stays dirtier in the wintertime, or what, but for the most part, black and blue is really good known jig color. Well, in my experience, the black and blue stuff on this Finesse Carolina rig deal works extremely well too, and then green pumpkin is my second choice. Well, those are my 2 jig choices too. But the water does stay dirty in the wintertime than it does any other time of year. So that may have something to do with that. But the harder, hard colors that have more of an impactful image that the fish can see a little better, seem to be, I favor those more in the wintertime. So black and blue, green pumpkin. And then as far as a couple of other baits that are even more finesse than the lizard even, that work. And here's the deal. The house we're in right now has a leg up on everybody else when it comes to this particular technique, this particular time of year, because they have the patented swim slots, correct? So they make the only baits that are going to have that subtle wiggle and be able to move without movement better than anything else on the market. So, if I want to step it down and go a little bit more finesse on a really tough post-frontal cold day or something like that, really bright sunshine maybe, Hyper Stick, right? You can do the same thing, the same technique, Finesse Carolina rig, with a hyper stick, okay? And that's going to be a little more subtle. Doesn't have the appendages, doesn't have quite as much action, just a little bit more finesse technique that can still work. And then ultra finesse for me is going to be the hyper worm. What size is that? The 4-inch, like the little bitty one. The 4-inch hyper worm. And you're going to need to drop your hook, excuse me, need to drop your hook size down to about a 3/0 on that one. I don't think I covered setup, so we'll go ahead and hit that real quick right now. 7-foot medium heavy, your typical Texas rig type of rod is going to be what I use. I'm going to want to use 15 to 17 pound fluorocarbon. You are using a worm hook, so I don't want any stretch in the line, or little as possible, but it's a finesse technique. So I'm going to go fluorocarbon, less stretch, still have the invisibility factor in that shallow water. Normally I want to use on fork a 4/0 or 5/0 EWG hook for the lizard and the hyper stick. But when I go to that little worm, you got to go down to a 3/0 so you don't overpower that worm. It's not too big of a hook for that particular piece of plastic. Got a few colors here, watermelon red. I got the Magic Cross Swirl, which is a green and blue, kind of a mixture of black and blue. We've got the blue fleck and green pumpkin in the lizard. And we are going to give these away at the end tonight. So thank you, Ronnie Parker, for that. And, you know, off topic here, but thank Ronnie Parker for everything, for letting us host these deals here and giving us a facility to meet and talk about fishing, which we all love to do. So.
Yes, sir.
I know I'm kind of just brushing through that topic. Is anybody thinking of anything they want to know about that topic? You know, where am I doing it, Vanessa? Anything y'all want to know?
I kind of got a question.
Okay.
I've been catching a bunch on red rattle trap.
Yeah, they've been biting it good.
Okay. Why not a red jig with a red jig? I know you talk about the
Right.
black and blue.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think on that red deal, part of that is, you know, it's a reaction deal. That color flashes more at them. That bait's moving, ripping out of grass, and that bright color flashes a little more, and they react to it. I think when you get something that's that unnatural, and you're talking about a red jig or a red worm, I can't say that because there's a lot of guys that catch a lot of fish on red colored worms out here. It's just not something I've ever really turned to. But even tomato seed and stuff like that has caught a lot of fish on this lake. When I'm fishing something that's moving that slow, I want it to be a natural color. That's why I tend to lean towards black and green pumpkin. I mean, a lot of things in the wintertime are dark colored in the lake, right? You know, they get, you know, crawfish get really dark green pumpkin, black colored. The brim have that top, their back is that color. Now they do have the bright orange on the belly, so, you know. But these are baits that we're dragging real slow along the bottom, and the fish are looking at them for a very long time. And that's kind of why I tend to go to more of the dark colors. Any other questions?
Something just came to mind.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned catching, using the red rattle trap in the grass. You ever use it around stumps? Do you just use it in the grass exclusively?
I'll use that color around stumps, but when I'm around stumps, I like to have a build crankbait. My personal favorite is a 6-cent Movement 80X, but even a regular square bill of any brand. It's just when I'm around wood, I want something with a bill that has a little bit more deflection quality. Now I do, you know, there's areas where the lipless baits, you know, when the grass and stumps are mixing, I'm throwing a lipless bait around wood and I'm hanging it up. So when I can get away with the build baits around wood, I really prefer those because of the deflection qualities. And so I don't spend as much time hanging up. But I do absolutely 100% throw the same crawl patterns in that Movement 80X as I do in my lipless baits.
What is the crankbaits? Is that something you'd use right now? Or?
Yeah, I use...
I mean, even to go down deep? Or?
Nah, man, so for the deep water for me, you know, the stuff that Mike was talking about, some of the extreme deep water and some of the more main lake driven deep water stuff, is not something that I typically do a whole bunch of in the wintertime. My deeper water stuff in the wintertime is really focused on creek channels. I'm a really big fan of that jig. To a point, you know, it's one of the deals, it's like a swim bait, it's a little bit addicting, the bite you get on it and size fish you catch on it and all that. To a point where it's almost a flaw of mine that I fish a jig as much as I do in the winter, because I have a hard time going to do anywhere else. Because even on days when I'm not getting bit for hours at a time, I know if I can just get a few bites, it's going to change the whole day, because I know the size fish I can catch. So sometimes I have, you know, I would consider it a flaw of mine that I keep that jig in my hand too much. And for that reason, no, I don't really ever turn to deep crankbaits, because a deep crankbait is not something you want to throw in an outside creek channel bin with a bunch of root systems exposed. That would be
Right.
expensive day to say the least. So
What about the spinner baits? I know he kind of brushed across
Mhm.
spinner baits. Big
Yeah.
spinner baits.
big spinnerbait down in the creek channel or something like that. You know, that's something that could be done. It could be done. I mean, I could see that being a possibility.
Kind of hopping it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys that do that again on the same type of stuff when we throw a spoon. You know, they throw big bladed spinner baits and crawl them, big 1+ ounce spinner baits and crawl them on the bottom in some of that main lake offshore structure. Again, it's just something I don't do a lot of. So I haven't never got that far in the thought process to try it this time of year because I'm somewhere else. So. Any more? I don't know. Let me check the online. Y'all hold on right there.
Got an online question.
Alright. Go ahead. Feed them to me, Mike.
Is split shotting and Vanessa Carolina rigging the same thing?
Yes. Same thing. So yeah, I didn't really ever explain it. So all the Finesse Carolina rig is a split shotted weight, a pinch weight. And I actually have a different way I like to rig it. I'll go ahead and tell you guys about now. You can use the little pinch weights that you pinch on your line, and you can move them up and down wherever you want. Just kind of clamp them down, they hold onto your line like that. To me, that kind of creates a weak spot in the line. Now, that's the way I caught a million fish on Sam Rayburn and Lake Conroe, everywhere else as a kid doing that, right? But that pinched off deal, I don't really like that. It makes me nervous, right? It's probably in my head, but it's in my head. So what I actually like to do is take an 1/8 ounce, maybe a 1/4 ounce. 1/4 ounce is about as heavy as I go on this. Tungsten weight, because it's very small. And I will put that on the line first. And then I'll take a bobber stop that you normally use to peg your weight down. And I'll put that bobber stop underneath that slip sinker. And I just run it up and I can move, change depths with how deep I'm fishing or cover or whatever I want to do. If I see a brush pile or something in a creek channel swing that I want to flip, I can slide that thing down, create a Texas rig, and flip right in there and never even change anything. So it's a very versatile way to do it, and it allows me to get it right. And it doesn't put any stress on my line whatsoever. And then, of course, just tie the EWG hook behind there with the plastic. But that's just a way that I've kind of gone to doing it over the years. It allows for a little versatility. I can fish a Texas rig. I can slide it up, fish Finesse Carolina rig, however I want to do. And with that little bitty weight, that 1/4 ounce, you can cast it, and that bobber stop's not going to move a bit.
So you're talking about pegging like a tungsten bullet weight.
Normally what you would use, the little bobber stops that you actually slide onto your line, they come on the little spindle deal. You got a little circle tab, it's got little wires. You slide your line through the wire and slide that deal up your line. So it's just a little bobber stop. That's what I put underneath my weight, and I slide that up to hold my weight. Now if you try doing that with a 1/2 ounce or heavier weight, every time you cast it, it's going to jerk that bobber stop down, and you're going to have a Texas rig whether you want it or not. So it only works for small weights, but it works really well for this Finesse Carolina rig deal. It's really efficient.
Can you do the same thing with a peg?
I don't.
Yeah.
I would assume you could. Yeah, the old T-pegs that go down there, little rubber stoppers. Yeah, you could do that as well. You just have to. You probably want to go in from the other side so it doesn't slide off when you're casting. The snap of your cast doesn't slide it off. So you probably want to go in from the bottom instead of the top.
Billy, may I add to that just a tiny
Yeah, go ahead.
So there is just a little bit of difference. When you clamp a split shot on there, it's not going to slide like your weight does. So unless you're pegging your weight, so if you did a Finesse Carolina rig and you pegged your weight, then it's more similar to a cramped on split shot. But there's a lot of guys that like a split shot. I'm one of them, because what happens is that round split shot will catch up a little bit in the edges of grass, and you just keep pulling, and it pops out. So it kind of does that little rattle trap deal with your bait. That's really the true differences between that CS chicken shit rig. It's really a lightweight Carolina rig, and a split shot rig is a whole different presentation. Doing the same thing, could be used in the same scenario, but they are different. Actually are. I don't need to correct you at all, Bill, that one, but I mean, just elaborate on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've done it both. And, just for the wintertime specific technique that I've used, there's, not any difference in the effectiveness of it if you clamp one versus pegging your weight up the line like that. Because you're fishing it in a drain, the weight's, not really moving in that particular situation that I'm talking about today. In other situations, throwing in grass stuff, yes, there'll be a difference.
I did it, just like Billy said, for years. I used toothpicks just to pick. until I was taught about why to go to a split shot. And it's just grass, by the way. It's just flat. It's the only thing.
Any more questions on line, Mike? Yes, sir. Clint.
No,
Between the weight and the hook.
It's
roughly
gonna
this
vary. And so here's the deal on a Carolina rig of any kind. And you can translate this to your other Carolina rigs as well. In deep water Carolina rigging, you can kind of see how far the fish are off the bottom, and that can affect the length that you want on your leader.
Billy, what's the max depth that you fish the flipping jig, and what weight are you using when you fish that deep?
Okay, I will get that one in just a second. In this deal, you can't really see how far they're off the bottom, but I will tell you this. On a sunny day, even when it's post-frontal and really cold, so you don't have a warming trim, but you have bright sun, on a sunny day, the fish will rise in the water column. So even in this technique, that's when you're going to want to get higher off the bottom. And the length that I'm going to use is going to determine that. Also, the cold water temperature can dictate that as well, because the longer leader you have on a Carolina rig, the more action that's going to impart on your bait. The more freedom that bait's going to have to move around more. So you're actually going to have more action the longer leader. So when it's extremely cold, and this is an extreme weather technique. When it gets like next week, if I'm out there on Wednesday and I'm throwing this, I'm going to have about a 1 foot leader. I'm going to go really short.
Wow.
I just want a really tiny little leader. When I get a warming trend, or when I get a bright day on a post-frontal day, I'll extend that thing out to about 2 foot. Is about as far as that, 2.5 foot is about as far as I ever want to go for this version here. You know, sometimes on big Carolina rigs, we'll stretch it out to 6, 7 foot on leaders, right? In this situation, I just want to go about 2.5 foot because it's more of a finesse deal. But I do vary the length based on the conditions. The more inactive I think the fish are, the shorter I want my leader. The jig, can you read that jig question one more time, Mike? I'm sorry.
It was, what's the max depth that you fish that flipping jig, and
Okay.
what weight do you use
Okay.
when you're fishing that deep?
All right, max depth. So on the max depth for the flipping jig, for me, I'm focused on something a little bit different. Creek channels. It's not the deep offshore structure. You know, if I was going to fish a football jig out in the main lake offshore in the wintertime, which by the way is sometimes a viable pattern in cold water. There's been some Bassmaster Classics in February and January that are won on a football jig in 30, 40 foot of water on some lakes. So it is a viable technique to try out there. But for me, what I'm doing in the creek channel, those creek channels that I'm looking for, I can't think of any that are deeper than about 25 foot in the bottom of the channel. Now you have to understand, I'm not fishing the bottom of the channel 90% of the time. The depth I'm actually fishing is really more relatable to the top side of the channel, where it comes up and out of the channel. So you got your creek channel goes down and goes up and goes down. I mean, is up, goes down, and then comes back up. 25 foot in the bottom, but I want at least a 4 foot elevation change is the big deal for me on that. So if I'm fishing one, like the one we fished yesterday was 23 foot, had a 16 foot on the top side. I'm actually throwing that bait in 16 foot of water, and where I'm getting my bites is as I drag up to that root system, and I just pick apart those roots and ease that jig over those roots, it'll hit that last root and fall. When you hit that last root and it falls, that's when you get bit. I mean, just almost every time. You can literally feel it coming. You'll get some good roots that are good hard roots. You're not hitting the ends of them. You're in the meat of the root system. You can really feel the difference after you do this enough. You'll have a soft kind of mushy root, and that's when you're on the ends of the roots, right? Where it's kind of mixing into the dirt, it's a little silted in there. When you get those roots that are really exposed, it's just like hitting a tree branch. It's hard. And you'll hit it hard and go, ooh, ooh, ooh. It'll get your attention. And you'll ease over that one, you'll hit another one, ooh, ooh. You'll pick up, you'll hit another one. You'll hit one and it'll fall for a little bit longer time, and you'll bite. And you can really kind of call your shot on it. So it's a neat way to fish. My max depth is 25 foot in the bottom of the channel, but really I'm fishing higher than that because the top side of those 25 foot channels are going to be around 20 foot. So not much more than 20 foot is the max depth. Long-winded answer to a simple question, I know, sorry about that. On weight, 90% of the time to half ounce. On a really windy day, I got to go to a 3/4 ounce to feel that bait. Very rare situation that I go down to a 3/8. I do use it sometimes, primarily in some of the shallower creek channel swings, the 8 to 12 foot type creek channel swings, and on a really calm post-frontal day. Most of the time, the half ounce is the key because I actually want that jig to fall with a good rate of speed. I want it to fall pretty fast because this is a reaction bite. As it hops over each root, when it hops over that last one, you want that fish to be hugged up down there at the root going, oh God, it's cold, and then shoot, See what I'm saying? Y'all see, I know I move fast, but that's what happens. It zips by real fast, and they bite it that fast, and that's why you can call your shot and all that. So hopefully I'm painting a little bit of a picture. You can kind of understand what I'm talking about there. But yeah, so half ounce 90% of the time, 20 to 25 foot. 25 foot in the bottom, 20 foot on the top. Any more, Mike?
Hang on. I was talking to Ronnie. What part of the day do you feel most bites come with the jig bite?
Morning. So the question was, just in case you guys aren't in here, what part of the day do I get most of my bites on the jig? 100% morning. Way better, always has been for me in the morning time on the creek channel driven jig bite. These creek channel swings, that's the deepest water in that area, in that creek channel, and those fish are going to hug into there and be packed in there in the most numbers when the water is the coldest, which is first thing in the morning. So I feel like there's more fish in there. I feel like as the day goes on, maybe there's a little bit of warming. Maybe this fish already fed and he's suspended up in a tree now. Whatever the case may be, there's just more of those fish in that creek channel swing in the morning time. And I've always had more jig bites in the morning time. Any more online, bub?
No, sir.
All right, we're all caught up online. We caught up in here. Everybody get in here. Hey, Finesse Carolina, come on over. Finesse Carolina rigging, a really simple deal. It is brutally cold. It does hurt. If you're addicted to catching big bass, suck it up and go. Because, I mean, the statistics and the numbers tell the story for us. I don't have to sit here and beat it over the head. You can actually do the research and you look at the number of giant fish in the state of Texas that have been caught in January and February. State record caught in January. Previous state record caught at the end of November. I mean, the cold water time of year is the time of year when you think about what we're talking about tonight. Hey, they're pregnant. They have to eat more than anything else. It kind of starts to make sense. So.
Yes, sir. And they actually do. They actually know what's around the bend. They know it's just a few weeks away. So they do visit those areas. They know what's coming. They're already prepping for it.
Yeah.
A quick elaboration on my seminar about the vertical. I forgot to mention, in the light line, you're offshore using a 7-pound test. Crazy on force. You must play your fish out there. In most of those places, with the exception of the one that I talked about out there, I'm drawing a blank. If there's no wood, you can play your fish and that light line works just fine. But I just want to make sure you knew that.
Ronnie, something somebody asked about on the Finesse Carolina rig line. I think we talked about it, but just to make sure, I'm using 15 to 17 pound fluorocarbon all the way through on that Finesse Carolina rig. Yeah, play them if you got open water. Highly suggest it this time of year because fish do tend to bite a little more sluggishly. They do tend to get, and that's one of the things about a jig. I know it wasn't a jig seminar tonight, but guys, make your jigs compact, especially in wintertime.
Yes.
Summertime football jig, I like kind of a big profile, longer
big
deal.
trailers.
Yeah, all that type. I leave the skirt full.
Yep.
In the wintertime, I want to trim that skirt just below the hook, and I want to trim my trailer to where the crawls are, kind of coming out right behind the hook in the trailer. I want it tight because those fish bite more finicky in the wintertime, and they will, if you give them more to bite, they'll only get half of it sometimes. So make those things short, good hook sets, but then play them because they don't always have that thing the best. Even when you get them top of the mouth,
Yep.
a lot of times they're right there in the top of the mouth.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Mhm.
I've noticed that.
So, yeah, if you have the luxury, now with the jig deal, it's a little different. When you got to get them coming out of that root system and then take your time, but take your time with them in the winter. It can be a really big fish, even if it doesn't feel big because they're sluggish. So,
Yeah, they'll surprise you. You set the hook, it ain't a big deal until it hits surface and that mouth.
yeah. They're just all cold and lazy and they're down there just kind of going, I don't want to fight you.
That's why I like that
It's
glide
this
bait line. I'm telling you, those fish are on fire.
Yeah.
If you can go find out that shallow, warm trim bite that I've been teaching about, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to go out there and look for any warming trend. If I had any recommendations for you guys tomorrow, I'd say, let's get back in the back of a creek, prefer kind of where it sits.
Hi.
We talked about behind the bridge. If they're in that
Are
creek
they
bed,
fishing the next couple of days?
yeah,
Are you fishing the next couple of days? All right, come talk to me afterwards. We'll look at a map. I'll set you up, right?
there you go.
Because I'm not on the water next couple of days and you guys can have it.
Cool.
There you go.
Sounds like a
Alright,
plan.
thank you.
Hey, if that don't prove that we're sincere and honest and we mean it, that
Come on.
we want to help you guys catch more fish, I'm going to give these guys some spots to go fish tomorrow that I've been using for guide trips because I'm not going to be in the water. So we are dead serious about it. We mean what we say. Yes, sir. Yep. Oh, yeah, we got it. I almost forgot. Hey, almost forgot, Mr. Ronnie Parker, who is in the room. Come on.
I just wanna make sure we give out these
Yeah.
samples, and we're gonna give out some online stuff again. Billy's gonna do that. Billy's gonna determine how I'm gonna put that version on
Yeah,
him.
that's right.
We have a lot of viewers online, and we have I just noticed a few minutes ago, a good friend of mine from Japan. I think he's in the States right now.
Okay.
But he's watching. He's probably forgotten more than I know about fishing. But I'm really I'm flattered that we're getting so many viewers watching about a whole lot of different things and asking great questions. We're going to give out some samples to you, and we're going to come up with a way to send out some samples to our online viewers. Yep. And again, we just want you to understand our number one goal is to help you catch more fish.
Right.
We want to educate you and have you catch more fish. Any ancillary benefits that accrue to us, whether it be using our lures or whatever, or hiring one of these guys, those are ancillary benefits that just come along with the territory. If you catch more fish, we'll take our chances with having a good relationship with you, and that's why we're here, okay? All right. Any more questions? And one more little quick thing, too. This Carolina rigging technique that was talked about tonight is such a versatile. You can do so many things with it, like he talked about tonight, short Carolina rigging or chicken rigging, and all the way to 4 and 5 foot leaders. Billy will have a more lengthy version another time to expand on the other applications. Everything from the type of line to as he talked about, the size of the weight, and the size of the weight determines length of the cast and how long you stay down. All those different things. The size of the lure that he talked about. He prefers a smaller lure this time of year. So all those things are very important to the subtleties of Carolina rigging. So these guys know a lot. We have some of their friends coming who also know a lot. We're going to try to share as much as we can to simply help you catch more fish.
That's it.
Okay.
What it's all about. So let's do some giveaways. You want to
Thank you,
give
brother.
away?
You have at it.
Okay.
Have at it.
How about a Q&A?
Q&A.
What's the deepest water Billy fishes his jig in?
20.
20.
16 to 20.
Wow, they were like, all right, I don't know who to give it to. Okay.
So now,
Hey, what's my preferred size of jig? Raise your hand.
Half ounce.
you gotta raise your
You gotta raise your hand, so now I'm gonna call on your next.
I'm really glad that I asked that question, because now it answers what all those eyes are. Everybody's just like wondering, what are they thinking? Now I know you're listening.
They're listening.
That's
They're
awesome.
cluing in.
Super awesome.
So let's do one about Mike's deal. What's the deepest water Mike's caught a bass in on Lake Fork?
127.
On Lake Fork.
On,
Raise your hand.
Actually, let's back him up.
80?
How?
45.
That's not correct, is it? Is that correct? 55?
What'd you say? 54.
54 is actually correct.
Now, those of you who can't see who's winning these giveaways, our new visitor from Austin, Texas, the young gentleman who's never been to Lake Fork before, proved that he's a very good listener. He won the first package with his dad,
That's right.
and then our new visitors who are also Lake Fork Trophy Lure Pro staffers who came in for this seminar and also fish won the
Thought I was
second one.
stayers.
So we got out of area people winning these things, and that's not an indictment of those who are here locally, because they win here something every week. But we're just glad to have an assortment of different people who come in from different areas, and he's got 2 more to give away.
All
So
right,
fire
so-
away.
When was, go ahead, you got one?
And I'm actually, I want to add to that one more thing. This boy did not just pay attention here. He caught something that, I'm going to buy him this. I'm buying this, okay? You're going to be fishing with this tomorrow when he spills his guts.
Oh, yeah.
But, man, I cannot believe
He said, oh yeah.
he even got that 127 foot that I just briefly talked about in Lake Shasta.
He did,
140.
yeah,
He's
absolutely.
just like, got it all.
100%.
Good job.
One more question. When was the state record caught and how? What was the guy doing?
January crappie fishing.
January crappie fishing. There he is.
Man!
He's all.
You're X now. You're out. You can have a tackle box.
We got to one more question. You got it. You call last one.
Blah, 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 blah. I can't. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, this is
Actually,
going to go to the first person to blurt it out.
Hang on, I did
What
it.
is the best tackle store on Lake Fork?
Lake Fork Tavern.
Hey, there's the first one to blurt it out. All right. Oh, you got one to give away?
The very last one.
Okay, we got one more.
This is it. What? And this can go to online. So if nobody in the room gets it, this can go on online. What is the #1
Thank you.
selling bait that LFT made? It was one of the very, very first baits they ever made. The what?
Wild Magic Shad.
Ring fry. Someone said ring fry.
Is that true? That's true. There it is.
You've already got enough.
Okay.
I'd like to extend that to online because I want the online viewers to
Okay.
realize that's what our first bait was right there. So.
All right. So for the online viewers, we actually have some tackle packs that we said we would give away a few weeks ago. That was my fault. I messed that up. So what I need you guys to do is in the comments, once the videos post, not during the live stream because we can't see it. Once the videos repost, and you can go back and view them later, comment Lake Fork Trophy Lures. Everybody that does, your name will be entered into a drawing to win some sample packs that Mr. Parker has put together with jigs and what else?
Soft plastic, other things too.
Jigs, soft plastics, and others. Swim baits, a variety of fishing lures that Mr. Parker's put together some sample packs for us. So comment Lake Fork Trophy Lures. We'll draw names for those on the videos that post after we're done live. Live chat does not count, sorry guys. But that's how we're going to do that. And I guess that's the end of it, man. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate you helping us. Hey, tell all your buddies, get them up here, get them watching online. That's all we ask. And we'll keep helping you catch more fish and loving our fellow man, right, brother?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Parker, and thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank